I'm Kat, and today I have for you a true crime case. I will also be doing my makeup at the same time, and I also have, of course, a word in Romanian, which is consecințe. 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 Well done, guys. You just said consequences. This case was requested by Tom, one of my YouTube viewers, and boy did I not expect this. I mean, I was just speechless when I read about it. In 2020, in the middle of the COVID lockdown, Eleanor Williams from Barrow-in-Furness, United Kingdom, was apparently the victim of grooming by Asian men, assaulted and even raped. Her claims actually went viral in May 2020 when she posted photos of herself on Facebook covered in horrific bruises with a black eye and a partially severed finger. She said that she was beaten and made to attend sex parties by evil yet clever Asian men, mostly Pakistani business owners. 22-year-old Eleanor grew up in a large stone-built semi-detached house with her mother, Alison Johnston, and her stepfather. She has an older sister called Lucy and a brother who both love their younger sister. The family home is on Walney Island, just off Barrow-in-Furness, and to the neighbors they seemed like a completely normal family. Eleanor's grandmother, Anne Burns, is a Labour stalwart in the town, representing the town's Hindpool ward on Cumbria County Council and serving as cabinet member for children's services. She was also a looked-after children champion for the Barrow area and part of the town's community safety partnership. Eleanor's mother, 51-year-old Alison, was also seen as a pillar of the local community, being a Labour councillor before her suspension. According to neighbors, Anne and Alison are community-minded people and they put everything into representing the town. They are decent and good-hearted people. There was nothing really weird about Eleanor's upbringing, nothing at all. She came from, a nice family, from a good home, and just a normal childhood. Eleanor's posts spread globally, and the Justice for Ellie campaign gained over 100,000 Facebook members. People even took to the streets in protest, believing that the police wasn't handling her case properly. In a Facebook post that she shared in May 2020, when she was 19 years old, Eleanor accused a group of men of attacking her, claiming that one of them forced her to work in a brothel in Amsterdam. She also uploaded photos which quickly went viral, showing her covered in bruises, including a black eye and, like I mentioned at the beginning, a severed finger. Mohammed Ramzan, a business owner, was accused of grooming Eleanor. He was arrested and after being released 2 weeks later, he actually tried to take his own life because Eleanor's accusations made his life and his family's life complete hell. His property was damaged, his businesses were ruined after him and his family became targets. People all over the world on social media made death threats against him for what they believed that he was involved in. And this all came from the Facebook post that Eleanor posted in 2020. Jordan Trangrove was accused of rape by Eleanor 3 times, even though they only met 1 time for a few hours. He was arrested as well. He ended up spending 73 days in prison, sharing a cell with a convicted sex offender after he was charged as a result of Eleanor's claims. However, the charges, they were dropped because he actually had solid alibis and he was formally acquitted of any wrongdoing. But people who read the reports of the allegations, they still targeted him. The word rapist was spray painted across his house and his window was smashed after Eleanor accused him of raping and attacking her. In August 2020, because of everything that happened, he actually also tried to kill himself. Cameron Beebe was at home with his mom when the police went over to their house. His mom actually had two carers, and Cameron was told in front of everyone that he's being arrested on suspicion of rape. Cameron was horrified knowing that he's done nothing wrong, yet he's being accused of something so horrible. The allegations against him were made in 2017, long before Eleanor took it to social media in May 2020. Cameron also received abuse online, so much so that he had to stop using social media. There were Justice for Ellie stickers on his neighbors' houses and cars, and Cameron felt quite intimidated. He lost most of his friends, and some of his family members even shared Ellie's post. Oliver Gardner met Eleanor in Preston in the city centre by chance. Eleanor accused him of rape after meeting her, which led to him being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. He tried to kill himself before being sectioned. So now I need to ask you, don't you find it a bit odd that all of these men, they are trying to kill themselves if they are guilty? I mean, yeah, I know, you could say that someone would do that because they can't live with what they've done, but isn't it like a bit of a coincidence that all of them try to do that and then all of them are just acquitted? Again, you could say that, yeah, one of them could be acquitted, the jury gets it wrong or there is not enough evidence, but all of them? I find that quite strange. But the twist here is that after a while, police started becoming suspicious of Eleanor, the so-called victim. They became suspicious after they found fake Snapchat accounts, all created by her under different names, where she would send messages to herself from all of these accounts, pretending to be someone else, making it look as if they were different people. In that summer, in 2020, hate crimes tripled in Barrow. Cumbria police recorded 151 crimes linked to Eleanor's case in 2020 after she made those claims on Facebook. The crimes range from malicious communications, harassment, criminal damage, to public order offenses. In the end, Eleanor was jailed for 8.5 years after she was found guilty of lying about being raped and trafficked by an Asian grooming gang and making false rape claims against a series of other men. Eleanor Williams was convicted in January of 9 counts of perverting the course of justice. Sentencing her at Preston Crown Court, the judge, Mr. Justice Altham, said that her allegations were complete fiction and criticized her for showing no significant signs of remorse. But what came out throughout this trial is completely shocking. The solidarity campaign Justice for Ellie even had its own line of merchandise featuring a purple elephant, which prompted rallies all over the UK with allegations of a police cover-up. But Eleanor Williams maintained her innocence even in court. However, she did say that she was sorry and devastated at how her Facebook post affected Barrow. But she didn't even mention her victims. She also said, quote, "I understand that it's your job to believe the jury's verdict, and that's okay. I know I have made some mistakes. I'm sorry. I know it's no excuse, but I was young and confused. I'm not saying I'm guilty, but I know I have done wrong on some of this, and I'm sorry. I'm devastated at the trouble that has been caused in Barrow. If I knew what consequences would have come from that status, I never would have posted it." Which I think that she meant to say, in my opinion, if she knew that she would end up in jail, she wouldn't have posted that. The judge said that the consequences of her lies for the criminal justice system were far-reaching, with a risk that genuine victims will be reluctant as a result of this to come forward. And, it's true, I agree with that, but we will touch a bit more on that later. Despite the focus on Asian groomers, by the time Eleanor made her Facebook post, she had been already charged with multiple counts of perverting the course of justice. This included making false rape claims against 3 young white men, one of whom, Oliver Gardner, which I mentioned already, was just unlucky enough to ask her for a light in the street. That's it. And she made a rape claim against him. Now, I'm not exactly clear how she knew his name, how she knew against who to make the claim. But anyway, another victim, Jordan Trangove, spent 70 days in prison on remand after she falsely accused him of raping and drugging her at knife point. If I'm not mistaken, he's the one who actually, they had a date happening and they got together for a meal, you know, as part of the date. And then they had some really good time, but he didn't do anything to her. But the worst of the allegations were against Barrow businessman Mohammed Ramzan, known locally as Mo Rami. 43-year-old Mohammed Ramzan said in court that he had only met Eleanor once, very briefly, at a family party. But Eleanor said that he was the head of an international grooming gang who first had sex with her when she was 12 or 13 years old, and then trafficked her and dozens of other girls around northwest England and even abroad. All of these men, they tried to kill themselves as a result of being falsely accused. Now, just imagine for a second if they would have actually taken their lives. After Eleanor's sentencing, the jurors hugged the man and even shook their hands.
Eleanor Williams, please stand up. These are the sentences that you will serve. On count 1, there will be a sentence of 6 months imprisonment. On counts 3 to 5, the sentence will be 3 years imprisonment, concurrent on each count, but consecutive to the sentence on count 1, giving a total so far of 3.5 years. There will be sentences of 5 years on counts 5, 6 and 7, concurrent with one another, but consecutive to the sentences already imposed. Finally, there will be a sentence of 1 year and 3 months imprisonment on count 8, and 6 months imprisonment on count 9. Those sentences to run concurrently with each other and the other sentences imposed. That gives a total sentence of 8.5 years imprisonment. You will serve half of the total sentence of imprisonment in custody, after which you will be released on licence. The days spent in custody will count towards your sentence. You have spent 361 days on a qualifying curfew. Because of that, the time you must spend in custody is reduced by 179 days. If that figure is incorrect, it can be corrected later without a further hearing. On release, your licence will be subject to conditions. If you breach the terms of your licence, you'll be liable to be recalled to serve the remainder of the sentence. There is an application for a serious crime prevention order. I find that this is a serious offence for the purposes of this application. There are reasonable grounds for believing that the order will protect the public. I exercise my discretion in favour of making the order as sought, with amendments to the effect that she may also possess a tablet and games console, and that you may also be able to operate a work and a personal email. That order will run for a period of 5 years from the 17th of February 2025. I order deprivation and destruction of the items on page 1 of Divider 8 of the Crown's bundle of documents. If the statutory surcharge applies, the order can be drawn up in the appropriate amount.
It is an extraordinary story, a story which left a town shaken to its core, not knowing what or who to believe. And it began with this Facebook post.
I think this is the hardest post I'm ever going to write. I didn't want to share this because I'm scared of the judgment that will come with it. People need to be looking out for young girls and protecting them.
Alongside the graphic photos, Ellie Williams claims she was being raped, tortured and exploited at the hands of an Asian grooming gang. Pictures of Ellie Williams, her young face and body covered in scars and bruises, were like a grenade thrown into the middle of this town. Barrow was torn in two, divided between the people who believed Ellie had been a victim of an Asian grooming gang and those who felt it was an elaborate racist lie. There were protests on the street, dark conspiracies online, a community profoundly damaged, its scars yet to heal. The day after the pictures were posted, there was an arrest, but it wasn't of any alleged attackers. It was of 19-year-old Ellie herself. Police said she'd broken bail conditions, having previously been arrested for perverting the course of justice. The same day, in a highly unusual move, the police then issued this statement.
What I would say is, when the question is asked, is there an organised gang of Asian men in Barrow conducting abuse or otherwise exploitation against individuals, our investigation has shown that that has not been corroborated or otherwise evidence.
If the intention was to reassure the town, to calm its sense of shock, it resolutely and very publicly failed. The far-right activist Tommy Robinson arrives to investigate the claims of Asian gangs grooming young girls.
And then obviously this story by this Ellie girl has blew it up, and the fact that she's been remanded. There's so much to it.
In the months that follow, resentment and anger festers on all sides. Asian businesses are terrorised. A local newspaper reporter is forced to go into hiding. But the questions which have so bitterly divided the town are resolved in the most dramatic way. At court, a raft of damning evidence showing Ellie Williams has made up the whole story.
There is no explanation for why the defendant would commit these offences. She has gone to extraordinary lengths to create false accusations, including causing herself significant injury.
A brief statement from Ellie herself was read out in court. "I'm not saying I'm guilty," she said, "but I know that I have done wrong on some of this, so I'm sorry." Outside the court, the question, would that be enough for the men Ellie Williams accused of rape and exploitation?
I feel no sense of triumph, only sadness for the loss of the years, the impact on my family, here we are, and the true impact that this will have on true victims. That's the loss here.
Mr Ramzan says he's now supporting Jordan Trengove, who spent 10 weeks in jail after Ellie accused him of rape. Both say they tried to take their own lives because of the stress. If you were able to say anything to Ellie Williams today, what would you say?
Why? I want to know why you have done this to us, and I'd love to know why, because she's not only done it to me and Mo, she's done it to our families, and there's innocent children and kids involved in our families along with that, and she's destroyed their lives along with ours.
The impact on the town as a whole has been almost as devastating. Police say the protests were the biggest in decades. Scores of hate crimes have been reported. Simon Fell, the local Conservative MP, says even though Ellie is clearly a damaged young woman, it's right that she should pay for the damage she has done.
No one does that to themselves if they're well. If they're in a good state of mind, if they're in a happy setup around them, then they just simply don't do that. So there's something that's gone on there. She is clearly a victim of something.
In terms of the legacy Barrow has been left with after this, how would you describe that?
We've been left with a permanent far-right presence in the community. We didn't have one before. Occasionally they'd stop in and do a protest, but that was it. But now, we have regular events with Patriotic Alternative it is, who turn up, spread leaflets of hate through people's letterboxes, and it's really ugly.
For Ellie Williams' mother, it's a devastating verdict. The court has decided she is a liar about really serious things.
Yeah, that's correct, and in the eyes of the law I've got to follow that verdict and accept that.
So as Ellie begins to pay the price for lying about exploitation the court says never happens, Alison can only sit and wait for her young daughter to come home.
She's a happy little thing, and so I miss that. I miss that energy in the house and her being here. But she'll be back again at some point, so we just got to look forward to that time.
But as she waits, Barrow itself must rebuild, a community torn in two by the lies of one young woman.
Lucy, Eleanor's sister, gave evidence for the prosecution after Eleanor claimed that she had been trafficked by Mohammed to Amsterdam and sold at a brothel to the highest bidder. In reality, however, Lucy and Eleanor went together to Amsterdam to celebrate Eleanor's 18th birthday. Eleanor's lie was disproven when phone and bank records shown in court revealed that Mohammed, the man that she accused of forcing her into this, was actually shopping in B&Q in the UK at the time that he and Eleanor were supposedly overseas. This actually led police to liken her claims about being trafficked to Amsterdam to the plot of the movie Taken. Eleanor Williams had 6 mobile phones that she used to create fake identities and manipulated the Snapchat accounts of real men that she had met through the dating app Tinder or subscribers to her account on OnlyFans to make them look like they were Asian abusers. Police were able to prove that one Snapchat account that apparently belonged to Jordan Trangove, one of the victims, which seemed to be badgering Eleanor about the rapes, had in fact been created using the Wi-Fi at the Williams family home on Walney Island in Barrow. In other words, at Eleanor's home. Eleanor gave police a list of 60 girls, half were from Cumbria and half from elsewhere, who she said were pimped out by Mohammed's gang. Of course, hearing this, the police, they investigated, but when they went knocking on the girls' doors, the girls had absolutely no idea what the police was on about. One of the girls, let's just call her Chloe, that's how she's been referred to in the media, but it's not actually her real name. She told The Guardian how confused she was after being confronted with a suggestion that she was groomed and abused with Eleanor, who was in the year above her at Walney High School in Barrow. Chloe, who is now 21 years old, she said that the police just turned up out of nowhere telling her that Eleanor had named her as a victim of grooming, telling them that she went to these parties in Morecambe and Preston. But that wasn't true at all. Chloe said that yes, she did go out with Eleanor one time on one occasion, but that didn't end up in any kind of sexual abuse. And even though they did know each other, they were not really close friends, she remembers always thinking that there was something really strange about Eleanor's behavior. She wouldn't go to school, she would always stay out of lessons, and she was just acting really strange in school. When both girls left school, Chloe saw Eleanor with visible injuries, a scratch from her neck to her collarbone and bruises around her neck. She knew that Eleanor would often fail to turn up to work and would go missing for long periods of time. Chloe wonders if maybe Eleanor ended up with some kind of drug debt. She thinks that maybe Eleanor got herself into a lot of debt with the drugs. She got herself into this hole that she really can't get out of. So maybe she thought that the only way she can get out of it is to plaster all over Facebook a completely different story. But Chloe was as shocked as everyone else in Barrow when she saw Eleanor's Facebook post in May 2020. She still struggles to believe that Eleanor's injuries were self-inflicted, as a forensic pathologist concluded that they were. We'll touch a bit more on that later on. Chloe even bought a Justice for Ellie t-shirt and she joined several solidarity protests, and she said that everyone had something of justice for Ellie, and if it wasn't on you, it was on your car or on the front of your house. She says now that she feels stupid to have joined the rallies for someone who made up so many lies. Jordan Trangove had rapists spray painted on the side of his house. Mohammed Ramzan received more than 500 death threats and had to leave Barrow for months. A reporter from the local Mail newspaper also left the town temporarily after being advised to do so by police. This reporter actually wrote a report about Eleanor's first court appearance, and in response to this, she received dozens of threats. Indian restaurant owners in Barrow repeatedly had their windows smashed after a list circulated on Snapchat claiming to show businesses complicit in Eleanor's abuse. One Muslim restaurant owner said that he lost at least £80,000 worth of custom after being named on this list. Orders dropped from 70, 80 a night to 2 or 3, and he was pursued down the street by people on skateboards who used the P word and sprayed beer in his face. During Eleanor's sentencing hearing, Judge Altham asked if the prosecution was asking him to sentence her on the basis that the offences were motivated by racial hatred. Jonathan Sandiford, King's Counsel, said no, the jury had heard evidence of her affectionate and emotional relationship with at least one Asian man. Eleanor continued to maintain her innocence, and 2 psychiatrists were unable to diagnose her with any disorder. But one, Dr. Lucy Bacon, said that she had experienced complex post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD as a result of childhood trauma, which, if I'm honest with you, I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Eleanor was actually the only defense witness, and she continues to maintain her innocence. She said that she wasn't thinking straight when she made the Facebook post. She typed the post when she was just discharged from the hospital. She had been receiving treatment for the same injuries which resulted in a campaign of public support when she posted the photos on Facebook. You know, the black eye, the bruises, the severed little finger. A forensic pathologist actually concluded that all of those injuries were self-inflicted using a hammer that Eleanor bought from Tesco just a few days earlier. They even had CCTV footage of this.
And here, perhaps the most extraordinary piece of evidence. Ellie buys a hammer which the jury are told she uses to inflict horrific injuries on herself.
During the first day of her sentencing hearing, Dr. Lucy Bacon, a forensic psychiatrist who assessed Eleanor multiple times since 2019, diagnosed complex post-traumatic stress disorder resulting from childhood trauma. And I feel like I have already said that, haven't I? Well, anyway, I apologize if I repeated that. The psychiatrist said that Eleanor displayed all of the key symptoms, including suicidal ideation and substance misuse. Dr. Bacon also said that Eleanor learned to maintain a mask to hide her emotion, which she said was very common in trauma. The psychiatrist said that she suspected undisclosed sexual abuse in childhood, which she said that Eleanor referred to in their sessions. Now, you know what, knowing the amount of lies that Eleanor came up with and all of these elaborate stories, right, over time, it's kind of, I don't know, hard to believe that she would have told the truth during this assessment. If she knows how to lie and be convincing, she would know how to lie and be convincing to a psychiatrist as well, in my opinion. And sometimes when you tell the same lie so often, you kind of end up believing it yourself, which makes it even that much easier to convince someone because, you know, you would seem genuine. On top of that, we are now in modern times and we have access to online resources. You can even get a PTSD test done online for free where you see all the questions. So, you know, my focus is the questions, really. A male psychiatrist, Dr. Martin Locke, commissioned by the prosecution, was not able to diagnose Eleanor with any psychiatric disorder. But the other psychiatrist, Dr. Bacon, suggested that this could be because he was a man and Eleanor had refused to engage with some male healthcare professionals in prison. Now, the judge, he actually agreed with Dr. Locke that there was no evidence of a conclusive diagnosis. He said there were clear overtones of difficulties in her childhood, but there was little clarity over what those may have entailed. Louis Blackwell, Eleanor Williams' King's Counsel, said that social services were involved with the family until Eleanor was 8 years old. Eleanor told the jury that she took drugs, cocaine, and marijuana. She was frequently found by police out of it, alone and far from home in Morecambe, Lancaster, Preston, and other parts of the northwest of England. In 2019-2020, her mother reported her missing 32 times. Doug Marshall, the senior investigator on the case, disregards the idea that Eleanor may have been a victim of something. He said that she started going missing only after detectives told her they believed she was lying. She wasn't going missing while she was 14, 15 or 16 years old. So in other words, I think that, she made herself go missing on purpose just to prove to the police that indeed she's being trafficked, right? So that's why she's missing. The missing episodes are all when the police investigation into her was ongoing. Detectives investigated every single episode. In the course of the 3.5-year inquiry, there's no evidence in anything they found to say that Eleanor was a victim in any crime. It actually took the jury 3.5 hours to find Eleanor Williams unanimously guilty of perverting the course of justice. Even though she was sentenced to 8.5 years, she will only serve half the sentence in prison and the rest on license once she's released. Hey guys, Editing Cat here. So as a latest update, as of May 2023, just a few months ago, it seems that Eleanor Williams' legal team was preparing for an appeal, which is it's just unbelievable, really. So they're getting ready for the first stage of the appeal process, and one judge would then decide if she and the legal team are allowed to appeal. After the sentence was handed down, it was referred to the Attorney General's office under the unduly lenient scheme, which allows the public to ask for a sentence to be reviewed. After considering the case, the Solicitor General opted not to refer it to the Court of Appeal. So it seems that her appeal was not approved, which is wonderful news because anyway, I don't feel that she got enough time in prison. Okay, let's carry on. But the question is, why did she frame so many innocent men, and what happened in her past which might have contributed to her behavior? I don't think that we will actually ever get an answer to these questions. Maybe she is just a compulsive liar. Maybe she has histrionic personality disorder, in my view. I mean, I don't know. In reality, we don't really know. Some of the lies that she made up were actually extremely easy to disprove. Seriously, she told people that she had a baby son called Bailey, but she never even gave birth. There was absolutely no record. She said she spent several weeks in a hospital in coma after being given a backstreet abortion using knitting needles. And I'm sure that if she would have spent time in a coma for weeks, there would be a medical record. Speaking exclusively to Sky News, her sister Lucy said that Eleanor's phone messages were just constant, asking her to go out, to wear certain types of clothing, to make sure that she looks good for the night, and it was all just very weird. Lucy also watched the messages come through and even filmed threatening Snapchats such as an image of a gun and machetes. Lucy Williams actually accepts that several of her sister's claims were untrue, such as her being auctioned in Amsterdam, as Lucy had been with her on that trip. Lucy doesn't believe either that her sister went to sex parties from the age of 12, as they shared a room together and she would have noticed, right? Sentencing Eleanor, the judge said, quote, "It is troubling to say the least that she shows no significant signs of remorse." The judge also said that there was no explanation for why she made the allegations which he described as complete fiction. Quote, "Unless and until the defendant chooses to say why she has told these lies, we will not know." End of quote. Mohammed Ramzan, who was falsely accused by Eleanor of rape and trafficking, said that he still bears the scars to this day. Speaking outside the court after she was jailed, Mohammed said, "I am not sure how my family and I are going to recover from this, but we are determined to move forward positively with our lives." In a statement read to the court, another of Eleanor's victims, Jordan Trangoff, said, quote, "I've not been able to leave the house. I've not been able to go to work, end of quote. He also said that it was a relief that Eleanor was jailed, but he wished that the prison term was a bit longer. Another victim, Oliver Gardner, gave a statement saying that he was sectioned after trying to end his life because of the claims. The senior investigating officer, Doug Marshall, told Sky News, "I've had cases where people have told lies, but never to this extent." He also said that if Eleanor wouldn't have been charged, it wouldn't have stopped. Even though 4 of the men that she accused were white, Asian business owners were impacted after she posted the pictures of the injuries to her face and body on Facebook in May 2020. The post was shared more than 100,000 times. 2 owners of local Indian restaurants told Sky News that they had bricks thrown through their windows and were spat at in the street. One actually lost 90% of his customers in the immediate aftermath of the claims. Police say that more than 150 crimes were committed by others as a result of Eleanor's false claims. Superintendent Matthew Pearman of Cumbria Police said that her allegations led to public displays of mass anger in Barrow, with protests held outside the police station and in a retail park. Videos of English Defence League founder Tommy Robinson in the town were also shown in court. In a letter read to the court, Eleanor said that she didn't instigate anything that happened in the community and didn't want Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, to come to the town. She said she doesn't agree with his views or opinions. Tommy Robinson is actually a British far-right anti-Islam activist and convicted criminal of multiple counts of violence and fraud, as well as other crimes. He is the co-founder and former leader of the English Defence League and later served as a political advisor to former UKIP leader Gerard Batten. As for Eleanor, police say that they first began investigating the sexual abuse allegations, but the case took a turn when they realized that Eleanor booked herself into a hotel at a time when she claimed that she was being sold for sex in several properties in Blackpool. She also said she had been raped after boarding a train to Blackpool. In reality, though, Eleanor booked herself into a hotel alone at the time of the alleged attack. CCTV even showed her checking in. Phone records suggested that she stayed in her room watching YouTube videos apart from a short trip that she took to a nearby store to just buy a pot noodle and some chocolate.
Here she is on CCTV footage, calmly booking herself into a hotel in Blackpool, supposedly at the time she'd been trafficked there. Here she is buying snacks in a local shop.
Further investigations show that Eleanor set up fake social media accounts to actually message herself to make it appear that she was receiving messages from abusers. Claims that Mohammed Ramzan tried to auction her in Amsterdam and traffic her to Ibiza were also not true. But Lucy, even if she doesn't believe everything her sister Eleanor said, she's convinced that there were men, not the victims, who did intimidate and harm Eleanor. Describing one evening, she said that one of the men was harassing Eleanor at the bar and some of their friends saw it and warned him off. There was a takeaway around the corner from the nightclub and Eleanor was going home that night with Lucy. This man grabbed her outside of the takeaway and started pulling her arm, saying, "Come on, we are going." Eleanor said no, that she's going with her sister, and this man was really angry with her. Eleanor did eventually go home with her sister, and then the next weekend she came back all bruised, worse than her family's ever seen. Lucy said that her sister begged her not to go to the police, even when she repeatedly came home with bruises resulting in injuries that Lucy took photos of in May 2020, the photos that Eleanor then posted on Facebook, claiming that she was being abused. It was the prosecution's case that Eleanor inflicted these injuries on herself, trying to support her lies. CCTV of her buying a hammer in Tesco was also shown in court, similar to the one found in the field where Eleanor was discovered with her wounds. A pathologist gave evidence that bruising to her face, arms, back and legs were consistent with being self-inflicted by a hammer of the same type. Eleanor's mother, Alison, also spoke to Sky News. She accepts that Eleanor told lies, but she also said, quote, "I believe she was just trying to get people to listen to her," end of quote. Alison told Mail Online in January that Eleanor had been the subject of a national referral mechanism order which claimed that she had been trafficked for sexual purposes from the age of 12. The order was introduced in 2009 following the signing of the Council of Europe Convention on Action Against Trafficking in Human Beings and is designed to identify and protect victims of trafficking modern slavery. Alison says she doesn't believe that because she thinks, as her mother, she would have known something was happening to her at such a young age. But again, I guess that, just like with so many other allegations, social services would take Eleanor at her word if she would claim that at 12 years old without much proof, because social services say that they have to, believe the child, that children don't lie about something so serious. But I guess this is proof of what can happen with a child in the future if they lie and they are believed as children. They will grow up thinking that everyone will believe their lies, so they keep on doing it. It's like patting them on their shoulder and just saying, "Oh, well done, my 12-year-old little boy or little girl. Well done for lying. Keep it going into adulthood," right? I mean, where are the consequences? Alison also said that to her family, the report says that she was telling the truth, that she was a victim, and as her mother, she believes her. There were some things she claimed that her mom believes are not true, parts of it that she made up, but her mom is adamant that she was a victim of abuse and trafficking. She also doesn't believe that Eleanor inflicted those injuries on herself. She couldn't have caused them. She says her throat was cut, her finger and ear were cut, she had rat carved on her stomach. She said that there is so much people still don't know about Eleanor and what she has been through, and people would think differently if they knew. You see, this is my view. Her mother had to believe the claims when Eleanor was 12 years old, because if she wouldn't have believed them, the court would have taken Eleanor away, because they would say that her mother can't protect her because she doesn't believe her. Do you get what I mean? Even if you think that your child was lying about a serious allegation, you are forced to say that you believe them, otherwise they are taken away from you. It doesn't make much sense, but I'm telling you, this is how it is. So I don't know if you as a parent have much of a choice really. Do you lie and keep your kid, or do you tell the truth and lose your kid? For people who have been through an experience like this, or those who know the process from the inside, the choice would be obvious, right? We all think that by telling the truth we are helping ourselves because it's the truth, right? But sometimes it just doesn't work that way. While Eleanor was exposed at her trial for lying about being raped and abused before battering her own face with a hammer to fake her injuries, Alison continues to publicly back her and insists that she has been telling the truth. As of March 2023, more than 1,000 people donated to Just Giving for Eleanor Williams after she took to Facebook to describe being beaten, abused and trafficked. The money was to help pay Eleanor's legal bills as part of a fight for justice, but in January she was exposed as a fantasist. Her mother Alison is being urged to hand the money, £22,000 to charity, by the man who launched the appeal. Shane Yarrell said, quote, "People donated out of the kindness of their hearts, and we were all tricked. I keep messaging her, but she keeps stalling and claims she needs to take legal advice. Her daughter was convicted more than a month ago. The money should be returned. The whole fundraising appeal was based on lies. It seems wrong for the family to have the cash," end of quote. Alison Johnston, who was a Labour councillor in Barrow, was suspended by the party after her daughter's conviction. In an interview with Mail Online in January, she said that she was backing her daughter and still believed her claims, even after they were shown to be lies in court. Quote, "I do believe that substantially she was telling the truth and she was the victim of abuse and trafficking. I also don't believe that Ellie inflicted those injuries on herself. She couldn't have caused them," end of quote. Just Giving paid the fundraising cash to Shane Yarrell, who sent it to Alison. A contract between them apparently allowed her to keep the money until July, after which it had to go to charity. Two charities declined the cash, but the James Bulger Memorial Trust and the Barrow-based charity will take it. Shane Yarrell is a Tory councillor from Waltham Abbey, Essex, who raised thousands of pounds for people going through traumatic situations. But it kind of also seems to me that, Alison, she keeps saying different things to different people, right? She's saying that she believes Eleanor, then she's saying some things are true, some are not. Then she says she would have noticed if Eleanor was being trafficked. It goes without saying, though, that Eleanor's false allegations had a shocking impact on all those involved. But the consequences go even further as they damage the claims of genuine victims who come forward. A charity in Barrow which supports victims of sexual exploitation said that many of its clients were reluctant to report abuse to police because they don't want to be arrested like Eleanor Williams. As a result, police in Cumbria didn't know the true scale of sexual exploitation in the town. Eleanor's sentencing judge received evidence from Superintendent Matthew Pearman of Cumbria Police outlining the far-reaching and damaging impact of Eleanor's lies. He told the judge that hate crimes in Barrow tripled in the months after she posted the graphic account of her alleged abuse on Facebook on 20th of May 2020. The post and the graphic photos went viral around the world and prompted the solidarity campaign Justice for Ellie. Levels of hate crime in the town had still not returned to pre-2020 levels, and the case continues to impact on Barrow-in-Furness and those who live and work within the town. Pearman also sent the judge a report that he compiled in May 2021, 1 year after Eleanor went public with her false allegations. Although the Justice for Ellie protests subsided by then, victims of sexual exploitation in Barrow still cited Eleanor Williams when explaining why they didn't want to report their abuse to the police. Senior managers at Women's Community Matters (WCM), which supports more than 2,000 people a year in Barrow, told police that victims' reluctance stems from the social media and community response around Eleanor Williams. Pearman's report added, quote, "A common comment is that they don't want to report things because they don't want to be arrested. This has led to a lack of reporting of information by WCM themselves to the police despite the processes put in place to ensure that it is treated confidentially," end quote. Pearman said that the community tensions resulting from Eleanor's Facebook post stirred Barrow into a state of frenzy which almost stepped over the line into lawlessness. He said that it's unclear how much of an effect the COVID-19 lockdown protocols played on the attitudes of others, but it's undeniable that Barrow had not seen such public displays of mass anger for over 30 years. Barrow had not known public feeling and open anger and hostility to be at anything like those levels since the Vickers shipyard strike of 1988, which lasted 12 weeks and caused angry flashpoints at picket lines. Cumbria police recorded 151 crimes that were directly attributable to the original Facebook post, 73 for malicious communications, 45 for public order offences, including racially aggravated offences, 14 for harassment, and 19 for miscellaneous offences, including burglary, damage, or assault. It's unknown how many additional crimes were generated indirectly by way of raised tensions, Pearman added. It seems that Eleanor got inspiration for her lies from the film Taken and Gone Girl. She claimed she was sold as a sex slave in Amsterdam, just like Kim, played by actress Maggie Grace, in the 2008 film Taken. She also drew inspiration from the plot of the real-life BBC drama Three Girls, which told the devastating tale of how 3 young girls were groomed, sexually abused, and trafficked by a group of men in Rochdale. She also included stuff from the 2014 film Gone Girl, which featured a woman who framed her husband and ex-boyfriend for her murder and abduction. Honestly, guys, I just don't have any words. I personally think that she did it for attention, then she saw how much attention she's getting, so she kept going, and then from one lie, there are 2 lies, 20 lies, and you just can't get out of it anymore. You have to keep on lying until until it went out of control. That's what I think happened. I think it was all for attention without Eleanor thinking of the consequences or even without realizing how far it would get. And once she started the lying, she couldn't stop because a lie covers another and so on. And she only got 8.5 years in prison to serve only half in prison. I personally don't think that's enough. She ruined her victims' lives. And even though, yes, they were all acquitted, this will have long-lasting effects on them, no matter how much we say that they are victims here. It's like a lingering effect. I think that when you are accused of rape or trafficking, it kind of stays with you forever, even though you are innocent. With only 8 years in prison, I don't think it's enough for her to stop when she gets out. If indeed attention was why she did it, she will always crave it and try to find a way to get even more attention. I think that she will definitely have more victims once she's out. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I don't know. You guys, let me know what do you think in the comment section down below. For now, thank you so much for staying with me. Stay safe, take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.